Thank you for joining us. My name is Jay Clifford, a developer advocate for InfluxData. I'm joined by Paul Dix, our CTO and creator of InfluxDB. So Paul, one of my favorite subjects, open source. What I wanted to start off with was sort of broadly speaking, where do you kind of see the general vibe for open source? You know, is it here to stay? Is it going? What's everyone doing in the industry?
So I don't think the vibe for open source in the industry is very good. It hasn't been for probably about 5 years or so. I'd say for infrastructure software, all of the infrastructure software vendors who were previously open source over the course of the last 5 years, what you've seen is every single one of them has retreated from the open source completely. Now, almost all the code they write is under a community license, a source available license, where they get to control the terms of how you use that software. So generally, I don't think it's good, but I think this is a thing that swings on a pendulum. And I think what we've had is a shift over to this, community license. What I expect over the next 5 years is another shift back over to open source permissive licenses.
And so where does that position us? So the 1.0 to 1.x, 2.x, these have been fully open source licenses. Where are we going to position 3.0 in this sort of realm of open source?
Yeah, we've always been kind of mixed between open source and closed, right? We have, the single server offering that has been traditionally open source, MIT licensed, but we very much create a closed source commercial product. And the goal there is to, build a business so that we continue to fund development, both of commercial code and open source code. So with 3.0, what we expect to do is to have a single server version that is open source. We will also probably have an enhanced single server version that will be under some form of community license, but we still intend to have a permissively licensed. 3.0 will be dual licensed MIT and Apache 2, like code in the Rust ecosystem. And we'll have, of course, our closed source commercial offerings, which is what we've been focused on so far. Over the next year, we'll have some of these open source things coming out into the open.
So we're talking about our sort of year of contribution there. So in a year's time, where do you see our contribution into open source? Is it purely from the aspect of 3.0, or do you see us contributing into other projects?
Yeah, no, I would say actually a lot of our contribution is in other projects, and that's already been happening for the last 3.5 years as we've been developing 3.0. We contribute and actually head up development of Apache Arrow. One of our developers is the PMC, the chair for Apache Arrow, and we have committers on Data Fusion, on Arrow itself, right? So the Rust part of Apache Arrow is something that we very much drive forward and will continue to do over the course of the next, multiple years. There's also still Telegraph, and then InfluxDB 3.0 itself. And there are other libraries, right? We contributed the object store library for Rust, and that's more and more widely used. So we are still very much committed to permissively licensed open source code.
Fantastic. Keeping to our roots, which is great. So thank you again, Paul, for joining us. Thank you all as well. We would love to know what you're building with 3.0. See you next time.